We must remain focused solely on truth and fact. It's very easy to assume.
All of a sudden, you hear in the background something that sounded like fireworks going off. It was going pop, 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 pop.
All of a sudden, we started hearing what I thought were firecrackers. And it went on for a while, and we started looking at each other like, that's strange. Where's the fireworks? I don't see anything. Punched down to the people in front of me. I said, don't worry, guys. It's okay. It's just fireworks.
Jason Aldean was performing. Tell me what you heard and how it all started.
It just started popping. It sounded like firecrackers.
Occurred right behind our booth, basically, so it was very loud. We thought it was fireworks or something, which we thought was weird because we didn't see anything in the sky. It went on for quite a while.
We thought it was fireworks, and then it just didn't stop.
And it sounded like fireworks, and then all of a sudden everybody started scattering and gunfire, and people were running everywhere, and it was chaos. Complete chaos.
Kind of sounded like some fireworks going off, and then
all of a sudden we just heard like 3 or 4 little pop, 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 and everybody kind of looked around and said, oh, it's just firecrackers. And then we heard pop, 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 and it just kept going and going.
We heard what we thought were fireworks, and it looked like smoke from Mandalay Bay, and then he kept performing, and then we heard it again, and they cut the music, and everyone said drop, and everyone dropped.
Thought it was fireworks. I looked up in the sky, didn't see anything. I was worried.
We were a little slow to kind of catch on to that because it was going on for so long, so we thought it would have been fireworks, firecrackers, or just construction noise outside.
It was a few pops. It sounded like firecrackers, and I know a lot of people I spoke with that also were out there with me said that, I mean, everyone's pretty much saying the same thing, and you could tell, we all looked around and we were like, okay, what is that?
Well, we heard a bunch of, actually it sounded like firecrackers in the beginning, and then it went off again after that, and then all of a sudden everybody was just running off the stage.
It sounded like a few firecrackers going off. And then there's that third round of firecrackers, or fireworks that sounded like.
It was just loads of gunshots, so many gunshots, just over and over and over again. Constant.
And did you realize at first it was gunshots? A lot of people did not realize that.
No, we thought it was fireworks, yeah.
We're like, oh, it's just fireworks. So everybody goes back to dancing and singing and going along with the song.
It was very horrifying. At first, it sounded like fireworks.
Okay, so this is where the hotel room was, where the shooter was. This is the stairway, and this door here was blocked, and you didn't know that till you came up through the elevator and went through this door and saw that there was something blocking that door. And when you saw that, did you think, that's weird, why would somebody put brackets on a door?
Yeah, that's just out of the ordinary. And at that time, I heard what I assumed it was drilling sounds, and I believed that they were in the area working somehow.
So you thought the drilling, they were gunshots, but you thought it was just drilling sounds?
At first, I think it was just drilling sounds.
Right. So then at what point did you get shot? What happens here?
As that door's closing and it's so heavy, it'll slam. I'm walking down this way, and I believe that's what caught the shooter's attention. As I was walking down, I heard rapid fire, and at first I took cover. I felt a burning sensation. I went to go lift my pant leg up, and I saw the blood. That's when I called it in on my radio that shots have been fired, and I was gonna say that I was hit, but I got all over my cell phone just to clear that radio traffic for they can coordinate the rest of the call.
So he shot You didn't even know he shot through this door, right?
Yeah, from behind the door. I didn't know how he was shooting, but he shot out.
Right, so you didn't even know it was coming from here.
And Jesus was towards the end of the hallway, but I didn't know at that time. I thought I saw someone like pop out of the cubby, and I kept walking. And once I got more than halfway, is when I saw Jesus, and I started to hear shooting. And I thought, at the time, I didn't know it was shooting. I thought it was a jackhammer. And as an engineer, I'm like, we're not working up here this late at night. We wouldn't be doing that.
Right.
And it was, I believe, outside. It wasn't in the hallway yet. And that's when Jesus, he leaned out and he said, take cover, and yelled at me. And within milliseconds, if he didn't say that, I would have got hit.
Because he was still shooting. So you would have been hit had he not told you.
Yeah, it wasn't even fully in cover, and they were passing behind my head, and I could feel the pressure of the
You could feel the pressure going past you, just even being out of the way.
Yes.
And were guests coming out of the doorways?
There was a female that came out, and I told her to go back inside. It wasn't safe. Shortly after, that's when Stephen was approaching, and I told him to stay back and get cover. And that's when more rounds were dispersed.
The best way to do an investigation, the sheriff will tell you this, I'll tell you this, is that you don't go in with assumptions. He's not going to make assumptions, as you just said. I'm not going to make assumptions. We're going in there following the facts. The facts will always lead you to your conclusion.
I thought it was fireworks. I looked up. I didn't see anything in the sky, so I got worried.
We heard what sounded like fireworks going off, but it kept going and going and going. We refused to really believe it was gunfire.
A lot of people said we weren't sure if they were fireworks. Did you know immediately that you were listening to the sound of gunfire?
Not the initial pops. It truly sounded like fireworks or firecrackers or some pyrotechnics off the stage.
And so I heard pop firecrackers, and it sounded like, well, it's street level. And I thought, oh, what a jerk. Who's doing that right now? Trying to scare people.
At first, I thought it was fireworks because the burst was so fast. And I turned to my wife and said, somebody just lit off some fireworks.
We did hear the firecrackers, and it was kind of going to be more of a safety precaution for all of us. Heard the first set of firecrackers, and then after the first set, the second set started going off maybe 10-ish, 15 seconds later, and then...
We heard a couple of pops that were super isolated and sounded like firecrackers, and we found out later over the police scanner and from some firefighters that we were working with later on in the night that there were some firecrackers that started it all.
No, that was fireworks. It's for the show. And it's literally, as soon as she said that, the spring started. You're brrrah, brrrah.
Oh, look, somebody's got some firecrackers going, and he pointed towards Mandalay Bay, and you could see like little sparks coming from the area. So we just laughed and carried on listening to Jason. And then suddenly we heard the second round of pop, 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 pop.
It honestly sounded like fireworks were going off. Nobody really knew exactly what it was at first because it was such a distant sound.
And we heard what sounded like firecrackers, like somebody threw firecrackers that we all hear back in Michigan on the 4th of July.
The smell and the smoke coming up from with the shells and the scent of it. Then it went... I could go on solid, never stop.
(10:17), the first two officers arrive on the 32nd floor. They attempted to secure the front doorway of the suspect's room, but as they entered into the hallway, they could see the room service card, and readily apparent on the room service card were cameras. So they pulled back, and they waited for the approach of a full SWAT team. We did not believe we had continually had an active shooter. At that point, we conducted evacuations of the rooms adjacent to the suspect's room, and you know the rest. 11:20, the first breach was set off and officers entered the suspect's room. They observed the suspect down on the ground and also saw a second door that could not be accessed from their position. Additionally, there has been accusations or beliefs there's some explosives going off. That is also false. The only explosive contained in this event was from our SWAT team breaching the room.
And what fascinated me about it was a picture that those officers painted. They go up to the floor, the fire alarm is going off, it's dusty in the room, there's flashing lights, and these 4 officers had never worked together before. So they're sort of working together on the fly.
They were an ad hoc group.
Right.
They really were. There were 2 members of the K-9 unit. There was a detective from the gang unit. There was 1 SWAT officer. And they actually found each other at the hotel in the stairwell going up to the 32nd floor. They formulated a plan and figured out how to execute this plan and then went forward from there. But they had never worked together like this before.
The first team of officers to enter Paddock's hotel suite appeared last night on 60 Minutes.
The dust from the explosive breach, and then you got the flashing lights. I mean, it looks straight up like out of a movie.
Shell casings all over the floor. I could smell the gunpowder that had went off in the room. So we were tripping over guns, tripping over long guns inside.
My initial scan of coming in the room with my rifle is just seeing, I'm seeing 1 male down, bleeding from the face. He was not a threat, kept going, kept going, kept going.
I didn't see any apparent wounds to his head, but I did see a lot of blood that had come out of his mouth.
Well, there was a bloody revolver, I think, nearby him that was on the ground, consistent with him shooting himself.
That is also false. The only explosive contained in this event was from our SWAT team breaching the room. So, there is no conspiracy between the FBI, between LVMPD, and the MGM. Nobody is attempting to hide anything.
The Daily Mail has released photos that shows the hotel room after the SWAT team enter, and it shows guns and ammunitions inside. Many outlets are re-disseminating. Can you verify the legitimacy of these photos, and should any other outlets disseminate them?
I can't verify whether they're legitimate or not. What I can tell you is I'm very troubled by it. We have an internal investigation occurring as we speak on how those photographs were obtained by the public. I can't verify whether they're legitimate or not. What I can tell you is I'm very troubled by it. We have an internal investigation occurring as we speak on how those photographs were obtained by the public.
The Daily Mail has released photos that shows the hotel room after the SWAT team enter, and it shows guns and ammunitions inside. Many outlets are re-disseminating. Can you verify the legitimacy of these photos, and should any other outlets disseminate them?
I can't verify whether they're legitimate or not. What I can tell you is I'm very troubled by it. We have an internal investigation occurring as we speak on how those photographs were obtained by the public.
The Daily Mail has released photos that shows the hotel room after the SWAT team enter, and it shows guns and ammunitions inside. Many outlets are re-disseminating. Can you verify the legitimacy of these photos, and should any other outlets disseminate them?
I can't verify whether they're legitimate or not. What I can tell you is I'm very troubled by it. We have an internal investigation occurring as we speak on how those photographs were obtained by the public. I can't verify whether they're legitimate or not. What I can tell you is I'm very troubled by it. We have an internal investigation occurring as we speak on how those photographs were obtained by the public.
The Daily Mail has released photos that shows the hotel room after the SWAT team enter, and it shows guns and ammunitions inside. Many outlets are re-disseminating. Can you verify the legitimacy of these photos, and should any other outlets disseminate them?
I can't verify whether they're legitimate or not. What I can tell you is I'm very troubled by it. We have an internal investigation occurring as we speak on how those photographs were obtained by the public.
My buddy got shot 3 times in the chest. He actually put his finger in the hole.
Finally, we had to move him because he had 3 chest wounds. But I just got a message my buddy is going to be okay. So, I mean,
the guy who got hit 3 times is going to be okay?
Yeah.
It was like, I think I've been shot in the head. It went along my skull and came out about 3 inches later.
So where did it go?
It came right in the back, right in the center of my head. And it came out about 3 inches later along my skull.
Don't ask me to make assumptions, please.